Welcome back to Babar Tales, where history comes to life. Today, we're diving into the remarkable story of George Washington, the man who led the American colonies to victory and became the first president of the United States. From his early days as a surveyor to his legendary leadership during the Revolutionary War, Washington's journey is one of courage, determination, and vision. So, join me as we explore the life and legacy of one of history's most iconic figures. Let's get started.
Early life and background. George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia. He was the eldest son of Augustine and Mary Ball Washington, members of a moderately prosperous planter family. Young George's early years were marked by the rugged life of a Virginia planter, but his future held much more than the ordinary life of a colonial landowner. Tragedy struck when George was only 11 years old. His father passed away, leaving the family estate to be managed by George's older half-brother, Lawrence. Lawrence became a mentor to George, exposing him to the ways of the colonial elite and military life. Lawrence's marriage to Anne Fairfax, a member of one of the most influential families in Virginia, further connected George to the upper echelons of colonial society. Despite his lack of formal education, George was a quick learner. He became a skilled surveyor at the age of 16, a profession that took him deep into the western wilderness, sharpening his knowledge of the land that would later become crucial during his military career. The French and Indian War. George Washington's first taste of military action came during the French and Indian War, a conflict that pitted British forces and American colonists against the French and their Native American allies. At the age of 21, Washington was commissioned as a lieutenant colonel in the Virginia militia. His mission? To deliver a message to the French, demanding they vacate the Ohio Valley, territory claimed by the British. The mission was a failure, leading to a skirmish that ignited the war. Washington's early experiences in the conflict were mixed. He suffered defeats but also displayed remarkable leadership, particularly during the infamous Battle of Fort Necessity in 1754. Although the British were ultimately victorious, Washington's military acumen was recognized, laying the groundwork for his future as a commander. After the war, Washington returned to Mount Vernon, his beloved estate along the Potomac River. He married Martha Custis, a wealthy widow, in 1759, and became a devoted stepfather to her two children. With his status as a respected landowner, Washington seemed destined for a quiet life. But history had other plans. The road to revolution. The 1760s and 1770s were a period of escalating tension between the American colonies and Great Britain. The imposition of taxes like the Stamp Act and the Townshend Acts without colonial representation in Parliament fueled widespread anger. Washington, like many of his contemporaries, initially sought reconciliation with the Crown, but his patience wore thin as British policies grew increasingly oppressive. In 1774, Washington was elected as a delegate to the First Continental Congress, a gathering of colonial leaders who sought to address grievances with the British government. Although he was not yet a radical, Washington's experiences during the French and Indian War had convinced him of the need for colonial unity and military preparedness. The tipping point came in 1775 with the battles of Lexington and Concord, marking the outbreak of the Revolutionary War. The Second Continental Congress convened, and Washington was unanimously chosen as commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. His military experience, coupled with his reputation as a man of integrity and restraint, made him the ideal candidate to lead the fledgling American forces. Taking command of an army that was underfunded, undertrained, and under-equipped, Washington faced a daunting task. The early years of the war were marked by a series of defeats, including the loss of New York City in 1776. However, Washington's resilience became evident during the winter of 1776, when he led a daring crossing of the Delaware River and won a crucial victory at the Battle of Trenton. The winter of 1777-1778 at Valley Forge tested Washington and his troops to their limits. Despite the brutal conditions, Washington's leadership and the assistance of foreign military advisors like Baron von Steuben helped to transform the Continental Army into a more disciplined and effective fighting force. In 1781, Washington's strategic brilliance culminated in the Siege of Yorktown, where he, along with French forces, trapped British General Cornwallis's army. Cornwallis's surrender effectively ended the war, securing American independence. Washington's role in the victory cemented his status as a national hero. the Constitutional Convention and presidency. With the war over, Washington returned to Mount Vernon, eager to resume his life as a private citizen. But the fledgling nation faced numerous challenges, including economic turmoil and political instability. The Articles of Confederation, the first governing document of the United States, proved inadequate in uniting the states under a strong central government. In 1787, Washington was called upon once again to serve his country. He presided over the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, where the U.S. Constitution was drafted. Washington's presence lent credibility to the proceedings, and his support was crucial in persuading the states to ratify the new Constitution. In 1789, George Washington was unanimously elected as the first president of the United States. His presidency set many precedents, including the establishment of the cabinet, the implementation of a national banking system, and the tradition of a peaceful transfer of power. Washington's leadership during the nation's formative years earned him the title, Father of the Nation. The farewell address and retirement. After serving 2 terms as president, Washington declined to seek a third, setting a precedent that would last until the 20th century. In his farewell address, he warned against the dangers of political parties and foreign alliances, advice that remains relevant to this day. Washington's decision to voluntarily step down from power was unprecedented in a world dominated by monarchs and dictators. Washington retired to Mount Vernon, where he hoped to spend his remaining years in peace. However, his retirement was short-lived. In 1798, amid rising tensions with France, Washington was appointed as Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Army by President John Adams. Although he did not see combat, his willingness to serve once more underscored his commitment to his country. Death and legacy. On December 14, 1799, George Washington passed away at the age of 67. His death was mourned across the nation, and his legacy as a leader, statesman, and symbol of American ideals was firmly established. Washington's life and career embodied the principles of courage, integrity, and selflessness.